Hello everyone, good morning and welcome back to Sports Today. We bring you this video segment every single morning where we catch up with things that you may have missed out on whilst you were catching up on some all-important sleep, because let's face it, whilst you need sleep, I need sleep, the whole world needs sleep. The world of sport doesn't really sleep. There's always something or the other going on, and it can be a little tiresome to keep a track on every little development that is taking place. But worry not, that's what we're here for. We're going to start off your day with some nice sporting updates. And well, let's get straight to it and let's talk about one thing that has been the talk of town even during the IPL season, and that is India's hunt for a head coach. Now, many believe that Gautam Gambhir would in fact be one of the favorites to apply, and he seemed to be the BCCI's preferred candidate. But the May 27th deadline that was put in place by the BCCI has passed, and as of now, there is no real clarity as to whether or not Gambhir apply. In fact, there's no clarity as to whether or not any of India's top choices applied, because going by a certain report in the Press Trust of India, or PTI for short, it is believed that there seems to be no clarity on whether or not a lot of the BCCI's preferred candidates have applied. Don't forget, Gambhir was one, VVS Lakshman was another, but with Lakshman there had already been multiple reports citing he wouldn't apply because he didn't want a work schedule that would see him on the road 10 months in a year. What's also clear is that there have been no major big name foreign coaches who have applied, but that really is no surprise given BCCI Secretary Jay Shah's public comments that the BCCI would be looking at someone who's familiar with the domestic system of India. No foreign coach would be that familiar, and therefore it seems like any foreign coaches, even after being ruled out, no one's really trying to rock the boat and bother applying. And to make things even worse when it comes to the entire coach search, well, it seems like the BCCI is having a lot of trouble sorting through the number of applications, which should probably be of no surprise given that the first way of actually applying was through a public Google document that literally anyone, including you or me, could access. And in fact, that's led to, again, no surprise, a lot of bogus applications, including from Sachin Tendulkar and MS Dhoni. No, it's not the real Sachin Tendulkar or the real MS Dhoni who've applied to be India's head coach, but a lot of internet pranksters who, of course, had a little bit of a joke at this particular instance ended up filling in the forms using these names. Other names include, get this, Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah. So clearly there's a lot of let's say applications for the BCCI to sort through, and in fact, according to a report in the Indian Express, it has caused the BCCI a lot of trouble. I want to be sympathetic towards the BCCI, but I also kind of feel that this was a problem very much of their own making. It could have been a better way to apply rather than a public Google form that literally anyone could access. No real surprise that they're having to deal with a mess like this. And clearly it seems as the May 27 deadline has come and gone, we're no closer yet to knowing who the new Indian head coach will be than we were maybe a month ago. Because again, none of the favorites have reportedly applied, there's no foreign coaches, and what we're getting to know is that there's so many pranksters who've applied using bogus names. Well, luckily there's a lot more clarity around certain other things, including the schedule that India will be having when they face Australia in the Border-Gavaskar Trophy series that is set to be held much later this year. Now, of course, we know the schedule of the 5 tests. That's already been announced, but Cricket Australia announced on Tuesday that there will also be 2 warm-up games that will be played by India A and Australia A ahead of the series. The purpose of these warm-up games, well, it is to ensure that the fringe players for both teams get a final chance to push their own cases. And I think it's an interesting novel concept because again, India-Australia is one of those very big test series. In fact, India-Australia, India-England and the Ashes, I think would count right up there as being the biggest series in terms of prestige and of course the board's relative interest when it comes to preserving the longest format of the sport. So I think it's good that you're giving more and more players, fringe players, the chance to prove themselves in a couple of warm-up games and maybe push their case for selection in the historic 5-match series. A little bit more cricket news before we switch things around. There's a viral video now that's doing the rounds that were put out by the Sunrisers Hyderabad, wherein the SRH CEO and owner Kavya Maran could be seen stepping into the dressing room and giving her beleaguered players a pep talk. Now, there's no denying the fact that for SRH, neither qualifier 1 nor the final played out as they would have probably expected it. Again, they were handily beaten by KKR in qualifier 1 and the same fate occurred in the final as well. But Kavya Maran did go out of her way to actually tell the players that, listen, we're also proud of how it is you played. You did great. You redefined or made, let's say, SRH's style of play the talk of the town, and people will keep talking about it even though you ended up losing the final. And I think it's safe to say she's right in that regard. But you could also see a lot of disappointed faces in the dressing room as she was speaking. You can see Abdul Samadia seems dejected. There's a Travis Head in the background who seems like he'd rather be anywhere else at this point in time. But you have to appreciate the gesture from Kavya. It's a good one, really, considering that she herself was very disappointed after the final. And in fact, viral pictures of her had gone around the internet where she could be seen crying after the loss. But anyway, switching our focus now back to the world of football from the world of cricket. And even there's some head coach hunting that's doing the rounds. But let's first focus on this man right here, Cristiano Ronaldo, who ended up breaking yet another goal scoring record when he scored in Al Nassr's recent Saudi Pro League match. What is the record? He now has the record for the most number of goals in a single edition of the Saudi League. Is that much of a surprise? Not really. One, because we know Ronaldo scores goals everywhere he goes, and the levels of the Saudi Pro League, with all due respect to the Saudi Pro League, probably aren't anywhere close to being the same as they are or you would find in Europe or other nations. So not really much of a surprise, but still a pretty decent milestone for Ronaldo, and one more, let's say, achievement or record that he can add to his already illustrious hat. But as I said, head coach hunting in the Indian cricket team, well, there's a lot of football fans who are doing the exact same thing, and a lot of football teams who are, let's say, passing the managerial free agency market to ensure that they can get the best head coach. And there are links now that this man right here, Roberto De Zerbi, who was let go of by Brighton and Hove Albion, is currently on the shortlist and has been contacted by Manchester United. Now, it's worth noting that De Zerbi has actually walked away from it's a mutual parting of ways between him and Brighton, but he's still technically under contract for one more year. So if he were to join any other club immediately, then Brighton would be due a payoff. This is simply a case of him sitting out the rest of his contract rather than being sacked or paid off by Brighton. So assuming United get their man, and I think it'd be an interesting candidate really, because again, one of the brightest young coaches in Europe, if you ask me. Whether or not he actually comes in, whole different prospect. Personally, if you ask me, I think maybe United should not be too hasty and sack Ten Hag. Give him one more season, see how things go under a little bit more of a, let's say, defined structure, which United have lacked for many years. Speaking of other clubs who have lacked defined structures, Chelsea are also in the hunt for a head coach after rather shockingly sacking Mauricio Pochettino, despite him overseeing an improvement of form and guiding the team to a credible 6th place finish. And the man they're looking to get is this man right here. In case you don't know him, that's Enzo Maresca, who is the head coach right now of Leicester City and guided them straight back to the Premier League after winning the Championship, which is the second division of English football, in the end of this particular season. Maresca obviously has impressed a lot of people, of course, with the way he's managed Leicester. And if reports are to be believed, Chelsea are offering him a 5-year deal, which would show a greater vote of confidence than they had in Mauricio Pochettino, given they only gave him a 2-year deal and then sacked him after a year anyway. Maresca being given a 5-year deal shows that maybe the management are serious about building something more long-term after having gone through 5 managers, you heard that right, 5 managers in the span of 2 years. Yikes, that's a big turnaround, and hopefully it's one that ends. Speaking of manager turnaround, Manchester City manager Pep Guardiola is reportedly mulling walking away from the Manchester City job at the end of the next season. Remember, he did admit after the Premier League season and FA Cup season ended that he's probably closer to leaving City than he is staying at City. But he's still under contract with City for one more year, and as of now has given no indications whatsoever that he's ready to walk away. The expectation is he'll be in the dugout next season, but no clarity beyond that as of yet. And it is being believed that Man City, despite all of the success they've achieved under Guardiola, are already doing succession planning to ensure that whoever comes after him will have an easy job. Again, Guardiola has been at City since 2016, and that's a lifetime really in football when you look at how easily managers are sacked now. So it's interesting to see that he's been here as long. It's the longest tenure he's had in any club. And he always prefers a bit of a break before getting back to work. So it may seem like he's going to walk away from City, come next season, take a break, and potentially join another club. Who really knows? Let's see how it plays out, but right now it would be a big blow, if you ask me, for City to lose Pep Guardiola. Switching focus now from the world of football to the world of tennis, some French Open action, and disappointment really for Indian fans, because Sumit Nagal, who would of course have been making his first appearance, having not played the qualifiers in the French Open, was unfortunately soundly beaten by Karen Khachanov in the first round, which included a bagel in the second set. Ouch. That being said, I think anyone expecting Nagal to have qualified from that sort of a situation was definitely expecting way too much. Khachanov is not only a seeded opponent, he's seeded 18th, which means he's much higher up in the rankings and is someone who has a regular experience of playing Grand Slams, unlike Nagal. The straight sets loss was expected, but hopefully Nagal, can actually get some good prize money. He will, considering he made it to the main draw, and use that to potentially play in some other smaller tournaments, get his ranking up, and get some reps in. Because the main thing with Nagal is not a lack of experience or not a lack of, let's say, ability. It's experience at the top level, because injuries have more often than not stymied his career. But that doesn't mean the Indian challenge at Roland Garros is over. Rohan Bopanna and his partner Matthew Ebden will be in action later on today in the men's doubles in the first round. And of course, Bopanna and Ebden would be starting out as title favourites, given they are coming into this edition of the Grand Slam as the Australian Open champions as well. So it'll be interesting to see how it is that Bopanna and Ebden do. Keep your eyes peeled. The match is happening later today, so as and when it happens, we'll bring you the developments of that game as well as every other development from the world of sport. But for now, I will unfortunately be taking your leave. Thank you guys so much for joining us in this edition of the Morning Wrap with Sports Today. As always, really appreciate you rocking along with us. And if you enjoy our work, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell icon, follow us on social media as well. We're on Instagram, X, and Facebook. Don't forget to download the AajTak app, and if you're already on the channel, go ahead, check out some other videos we've done as well. For now though, from my side, it is goodbye.